Someone please tell me I'm not the only one that had an existential crisis after watching these 4 episodes of Frieren. Like, this 2-hour special, it broke me. Like, it legit broke me. Like, I had to catch myself and just pause because I got emotional, and yeah, I even had some tears while watching this because I feel like anyone that is, I guess, just has a human soul would actually relate with this series to a really large degree. And the reason why is because the very theme of what this show is trying to bring up is the passage of time, and how time is continuously moving, and no matter how much we try to stop it or delay time, there's nothing we can do. Eventually, time goes on by without us even without even caring about us, and we will succumb to time. We will die thanks to time. And all things end thanks to time. And the very concept of that is, once again, the theme of what Frieren Beyond Journey's End is actually about. It's a very thought-provoking show. It brings up concepts and ideas that have been integrated into literature for decades, eons at this point, basically. Just a very long time. I mean, you could go back to old stories of, like, the Holy Grail, the Fountain of Youth, etc. There's always been stories of people trying to find a way to beat time, be able to, live forever, be immortal. And, the concept of immortality or living forever, is, a topic that has been tackled a lot. But one thing I think everybody can agree with, if you actually had immortality, it would be a very depressing and dark existence, because if you're not able to offer this immortality to other people and you just have it for yourself, you're going to eventually become very lonely. You're going to wind up being by yourself and watching everything you love and care about decay to that very time that you managed to escape. It's a very sad and harsh reality. And so the concept of immortality, or trying to beat death, like I said, has been integrated into literature for a long time. And Frieren tries to tackle that in a very different way, a unique way. And I'm just going to straight up say, if you think that this is like a transported to another world series, or a reincarnated in another world series, that is not what Frieren Beyond Journey's End is actually about. It is about beyond the journey. For instance, like, imagine a typical story. I'm going to just throw out a story idea. ReZero, or let's just say Mushoku Tensei, okay? Let's say those stories come to an end, okay? The final volume comes out, the final chapter or whatever, final episode comes out. The characters within the represented stories, they complete their journey, okay? The events of Frieren is that, after the journey. For instance, once the hero party settles everything, they conclude the journey, they beat the Demon King or the big bad whatever, they straight up, they go on and do their own thing. And Frieren is basically that type of story, of a hero party finishing their journey, which is a rarity to see, and seeing what happens afterwards, and how time deals with them because of this. And you have our main female character here, Frieren, that is an elf. And anyone that has any knowledge of, I guess, myth, would know that elves are very long-lived. They live for thousands of years. Sometimes they're basically semi-immortal. The only time they really could die is probably through a battle wound or something. There's many different depictions of elves in literature, but one of the big ones that's always been a staple to them is that they always look youthful, and they live for very long lives. But the long life thing just really depends on the literature. In this case, it's very clear that in this story, Frieren is almost semi-immortal. She doesn't age, and she has just a very long life. While you see multiple times throughout this episode of just characters aging. And I think a good way to really represent this and actually showcase is like the journey here. When, she leaves the hero party and she goes off to collect spells and stuff, and you see her go to like this little area and all that to journey, she actually meets someone here. Like, you see him at the desk, someone that, selling little, potions or whatever, just different baubles at his store. And this is the beginning of a little montage. But after this whole montage is done and all that, you have this scene to where she goes back into the shop, and the same person that was young in the shop at the beginning of that montage is very old. It's a very subtle scene, but it represents once again how Frieren sees the world around her, and it plays with this concept throughout these 4 episodes that were released today of just like how Frieren is trying to get a grasp on appreciating the time she has on this world, but also appreciating the limited time she has with people around her. And it's a very interesting concept, because I feel like anyone that has dived into fantasy novels and stuff have probably seen maybe vampires or werewolves or whatever type of mythological creature, and there may be some romance around it. And you'll always have this topic pop up like, oh, I live for thousands upon thousands of years. You only live maybe 80 years. What's the point of having a relationship? That's a concept that's appeared in some literature. I've seen it when I've, dived into, vampire type stories and stuff. And obviously, this is a theme that could obviously play here. We see from the perspective of, Frieren, why she might, forego even wanting to have relationships or even have connections with people, because she would just continuously lose people after she just gets to meet them. Because to her, a blink of an eye is like a decade or a few decades. That's just how she perceives time. And you could just clearly see that from this very brief, minute montage. I really like that. I like how very subtle, the anime does it, and how it doesn't really kind of shove it in your face. You got to pick up on these context clues that are continuously poured or trickled in throughout these episodes. And I especially love the realization of when we get to see the old hero, the original hero, this pretty boy, reduced to an old man. It's a very interesting concept, honestly, and I think that this is what's really going to hit people. When they get to this point of the episode, this is when everything kind of starts to sink in on just the existence that Frieren is as a person, but also the world around her that continuously ages. Someone that was capable of defeating the Demon King and looting his castle has been reduced to an old man that no longer can fight and dies to old age. And it's humorous to a degree when you think about it. A being that was able to bring down an entity that was potentially able to conquer the entire world, maybe even destroy the entire world. The hero brought that man down, but he dies to time and old age. I like how this show is. But like I said, it's very emotional. It's not for the faint of heart. It's definitely not a show that you could just sit back and just, not be prepared for. Because if you are not prepared for this show and you do let it grip you, though, it's going to grip you, and it's going to immerse you, give you a lot of immersion, and you're going to want to just watch it all in one sitting, which technically that is the recommended course of action, since, the 4 episodes came out all at once to kind of give a good stopping point for if you want to continue watching it or not. But I think what really hits home, though, when the themes really start to play is with episode 2. It kind of showcases, once again, Frieren realizing the limited time of human beings, and she's trying to cherish them the most she can. She's trying to, understand why humans have, such short lives, and, what they do to be able to cherish those very short lives. And I love the very theme of basically, how the priest, how he, as an individual, he was someone that was very corrupt. He only cared about his selfish ways. He wanted to live out a quiet life and, after the journey. But as time went on and he realized, the old hero died, it changed him. And it kind of shows the effect of what people do or how people change with age. I feel like anyone can agree with this to a degree. When you're young, you look at things maybe that adults do. I know I did this when I was a little kid. I looked at, my parents or older people, and I'm like, there's no way, I would ever do something like this. I'll never be like them or do these exact same things. But as you get older, you start to do that. You start to do those things. You change and all that. And then you take things from people, and it changes your very personality. You'll want to protect someone. Maybe someone that was very selfish will turn into being very selfless. And that's kind of what happened here, is that, when he meets, this little girl that's called Fern, and she was by herself, she was having a very bad time, just thanks to chance, he managed to meet her on the road, he gets to see a destroyed city, a castle and all that, and he thinks about just, older times. If this was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the hero party could have stopped this, and he realizes that even though they went so far to try to bring peace to the world, defeat a demon king, old habits die hard, and they come back. And you see, just that pain of realizing that, no matter what they do, things will kindle again, like, pain, loss, war, and all that, and he wanted to do something. Even if he is not as heroic as, let's say, the hero that died, he wanted to be able to save someone, and so he takes in a little girl to raise her and allow her to have a happy life. It's a very interesting concept, just showing the effects of what death has on people as well, and how we try to carry on their legacy or memories and do good by them, when even they're long gone. I think that's a really interesting concept that, this story brings up. Like I said, it's a very emotional journey, and I really loved everything I got from this. I will 100% say it's going to be hard for anything from this season to really just beat this premiere of Frieren. It really came in swinging, and it got me. But I guess let's talk about other aspects besides, obviously, the story, because if I haven't convinced you already, I don't think anything will. But, I mean, one thing I will say is that the art and animation of this show is absolutely gorgeous. Like, the background scenery and stuff is just, it's so beautiful. It really is reminiscent of Mushoku Tensei, in how Mushoku Tensei's background scenery is. A lot of these little montages here and there just remind me of, like, the opening sequence from Season 1 of Mushoku Tensei. And I think that's a good thing. I do. And it really just goes to show the love and attention to detail that was poured into these episodes were real. Like, the people that worked on the show really loved what they were doing, and I could feel that, and I think anyone that watched these episodes can feel that. Now, to be fair, I know there's going to be some that don't like this, and I've already seen it. I've already seen some anger and animosity towards this show already today, probably from people that haven't even watched it, or people that are judging the entirety of it on just this opening sequence alone, which I'll talk about this in just a second. But, I think that overall, the story is legitimately great. It's honestly, it got me. It really got me. As someone that's read the manga and all that, I really got hit emotionally by just everything that these episodes conveyed to me. And I was just like, damn, like, that's good. That's really, really good. So let's talk about, like, the hate, or what would make people not like this show. For one, this show does have action sometimes, but that is not the main focal point. It is not the big point of the story. It's literally about a character realizing to cherish the little time she has with others. I think that is the main objective of the show, and if there is action sequences, it's more of a byproduct of events within that certain time period. And I feel like anyone that, goes into this show expecting crazy, crazy fights is going to be very, very disappointed. Because if you're an action head, this is not going to be a show for you. You're going to think this is incredibly boring. You might even go as far as to say this is a very mid show, something like that. I know for a fact there's going to be people that say it. I've already seen that today for people that have watched it or even haven't watched it. Which, let's get into this opening song since I'm already on the topic. This opening song, I was hearing discourse about this opening song for days now. The amount of switch up I have seen to the singer of Yasubi, I think that's how you pronounce the name. FYI, Yasubi is the singer of Oshinoko-'s Idol song, the opening song of Oshinoko. And people absolutely love that. I mean, hell, the popularity of that speaks for itself. The song was, like, trending. It was #1 in the sales charts and, listen chart or whatever. So, clearly very popular band. And that same singer came back to do the song for Frieren. And legitimately, the song is great. This is a really good song. And I think the visual standpoint, even without, like, a lot of action sequences, they're utilized in a very good way. Even still frames are utilized in a very smart way that I love the way the opening song looks. Now, I don't think everybody needs to agree and say that the opening song is a 10 out of 10 banger, or even the visuals are good. I think it's completely okay if you dislike the song. I think that's completely fine. But I have seen that people just switching up on, the song and the singer and all that just because it's Yasubi, thanks to Oshinoko. And I feel like it's more of a bandwagon of, like, oh, because it's popular now, let's hate on it. And, that's usually how stuff like that goes. When things become very popular, the hate train also becomes very large and more noticeable. But on top of that as well, I think that just seeing what I've seen in the last, like, 40 or so hours of people going after Yasubi and, like, saying absolutely horrible singer and attacking Yasubi on social media is just gross. Just straight up gross. Like, I have seen people do that. I've seen tweets and stuff of people doing that. It's sick. I mean, obviously, it's Twitter, so you expect a lot of sick people. But, I mean, the point of the matter is, it's just like, it can be studied. It can legitimately be studied with the switch up on Yasumi as a singer, just seeing people's reaction to this opening song. Now, granted, there is an argument to be made. Does the song fit Frieren's vibes? Does it fit what it's trying to tell? There is an argument there. I will agree on that. And I think there's nothing wrong with discussing that perspective. But going as far as to attack the singer, I think that's a little bit much. I think any human with some decency would agree with that one. But, yeah, overall, Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a legitimately good show. If you're wanting to watch something, and if you have like an hour and a half to 2 hours to kill, really just sit down and watch this. This is just excellent. It's pure excellency. This is good anime. Like, this is legitimately really good anime. But, I don't want to spoil everything, because if you haven't actually watched it, I really recommend you do so. It gets full praise from me. I fully recommend this show. You gotta watch this. Like, at least, if you have any fondness of fantasy, like, at all, you should watch this. That is my recommendation. But I'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk about it. I got very emotional, and I wanted to keep my first impressions very pure, so to speak. And that's my thoughts of how I felt about it, what it left me with, and all that. So I'll be seeing you guys for the upcoming episodes. I will be reviewing them. But be safe, stay healthy, everyone. I love you guys. Chibi out.